What's going on, people? It's your girl TDUB coming to you live from Converge Media Studios. We are here this evening to premiere episode 2 of Art of the Matter, featuring the one, the only Barry Johnson. This episode is subtitled The Art of Visibility because our conversation talks a lot about that, and you will see in just a moment from the episode. We have Barry in studio with us today.
What's
Barry,
up? What's
how
up?
you doing, man?
Yo, how are you? Thank
Doing
you
well.
again for having me on. I appreciate
Absolutely. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Man. I'm very excited to premiere this second episode with Barry. We had a beautiful conversation about all things art, all things culture, all things Blackness, all things beauty.
Yeah.
We managed to whittle a lot of footage and conversation down to a good 15-minute episode, which we'll be showing you guys in just a moment. So in the meantime, get on in here, settle down, get your popcorn, get your drinks. We're about to get into some good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And happy Black Excellence Month.
There we go.
Let's
Black
do that.
Excellence Month. I'm into that.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, we changed the narratives around here for sure. So we're about to premiere the episode. You guys can come on in here. Remember, as Amari and Trey always tell you, like and share the stream. It's the same deal right here on Art of the Matter. Be sure to like and share the stream. Let folks know what's going on. We're having some real deep conversations about art and culture and people and what this time is for art in our city and in our country and in the world. So I guess, Barry,
What's up?
are you excited for this episode?
Blown up, nervous.
Yeah.
And I don't do that.
Right.
So we had such an amazing conversation.
Absolutely.
And it lasted. And I remember how good it felt just to be in this space with you and to be able to have those conversations that just don't normally happen in this context.
Right.
So I am super stoked, but also a little worried because I'm always behind that camera.
Right.
So I'm like excited.
And I love it. I love this type of excitement of like he has no idea what's about to happen. So I get to see the look on his face. We all get to see, his genuine reaction from what we've been able to make from our conversation. But yeah, absolutely agree. Beautiful conversation. We got to sit down at the Vivid Matter Collective Gallery up on Capitol Hill. And we had a really great talk. We also got to visit you in studio and see you in process.
You did.
Is that something that you're used to having?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Like because my show Duality was going on there. So it was good just to kick it because the space is so dope.
Yeah.
And like so many artists in the collective are doing so many dope things. So it's good to share space in there. But to come back and be able to work in the studio real time and to be able to talk, it felt like home. It felt super safe, which I appreciate. And I didn't feel like I was under like a magnifying glass. And we just did great. And I'm just glad that you got a chance to come down and chop it up.
For sure. And that's what it's all about, man. The whole goal of this show, Art of the Matter, this is a show for the observers of the world. This is a show for artists by artists. And it hopes to give you a view into the artist's perspective and help people understand, what's going on for us right now. Obviously, there's a lot of art that's happening in the city and around the world, publicly, privately, what have you. And, human beings make that art, and so it was important to me that we have these conversations and be able to mark this time.
Yeah, for sure. It's
definitely.
Like such a critical time for our art to be being made. It's like the whole world was like a deck of cards that just got dropped on the ground. It's like 52 pickup, what I mean? So it's like you're going through and trying to find a way to reassemble everything. And it's really changed everything. And art has played such a critical role in the past 2 years. So it's such an important time to be having these conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Yeah. And we are about to get into this episode in just a moment. Be sure to add any questions that you have for myself, for Barry, about the show that we're about to witness in the comment section. Get those ready and stay tuned. And we're about to get into this second episode, number 2.
Yep. What happens if we do give people more space? If we do really go down the discovery of like, what does it mean to be Black in 2021? You know what I mean? Like, are things better for us?
Right.
I wouldn't necessarily say so. I think there's a higher amount of visibility, but there's also a lot. I kind of feel like we're at foundational step 1.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, okay, so now that y'all actually care to be invested in what it is that we're doing, okay, so now y'all need to understand us first. So do we go down the process of explaining, you know what I mean? Like who we are, you know, our identity, our backgrounds, it's so much. And like for us that have been going through it and living through it our whole lives, it's kind of like, I don't even have the time to do that for you. So just let me just be, you know, let me be.
NASA had posted an image on their Instagram a few days ago of these two galaxies that are starting to converge on one another. And who knows how they were able to capture that.
Right.
But the fact that it's happening in our lifetime and the fact that we can't see that movement in our lifetime, you know, and thinking about that sort of idea of it's happening, you know, but you don't get to see the movement. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Doing the work that is like, okay, in my lifetime, it may not happen, but I know what needs to happen, so I'm going to do the necessary things that need to be done.
What types of things do you like to address with the pieces that you create?
Yeah.
Because obviously there's a lot of Blackness that's given.
Yeah. Well, if you look at art history, like the Black protagonist has just not been there. Like you just don't have Black existence in the paradigm of art. So a lot of my work primarily is just to combat the erasure of Blackness. Like I paint Black people and specifically Black men, because you know that's a story that I understand a lot more, and even being, you know, having sisters and just being so close with different communities, it's like I really try to be ultra specific in the story that I'm trying to tell. And I want to be very cautious to not tell the wrong story of Black women. So, you know, in painting Black men, I paint them on all scales, I paint them on all formats to really primarily combat the erasure of them.
The fact that that is such a revolutionary act, you know, to simply exist, you know, people want to have something to say. They want their opinions heard about your life. And so like, how do you, with regard to duality, how do you balance that? How do you balance the self with the art and your public sort of like persona and the sort of opening of yourself through your art for people to give opinion with your own self-worth and self-awareness?
Right. Yeah, for me, I think my greatest tool within activism is my hands. You know, I know a lot of people are positioned to use their voice. I do that through my hands and my work. I think, you know, it's very important to be able to show up to events, the demonstrations, and be able to be there and stand as a collective. But I think where I can get ultra specific and do my thing to the highest extreme is through creating art. So there is a lot of me that ends up in every piece of work. I'm always positioning myself for the images that I'm even taking, and then just mapping different faces or different facial structures across that. So it just doesn't look like a high amount of this guy's just painting himself in and everywhere. You know what I mean?
Portraits,
yeah, because even if you think about it, there is no necessarily Black aesthetic. There is no Black aesthetic that exists within art either. Think about like any old painting that you could see. Like there's always a certain facial structure that is put there. And that does not exist within Blackness, within art. And I think that's a really interesting thing. Is like, we haven't even had enough of it for them to even be like, oh, that's like, that is a Black model that's being used across different, you know, figures, different points, different pieces. So yeah, I like to morph and change that. And really also, I think it's also about, you know, our lives are forever changing. So it's in looking at the events that happened last year and looking at the things that we're facing now, you know, and just trying to find a way to be able to tell that story visually.
I love that too, because even thinking about, you know, what you just mentioned about Blackness with regard to art and how it's, you know, being practiced right now.
Mhm.
You know, but this is like the birth of hip hop.
Yes.
You know, in
Exactly.
art form.
Mhm.
You know, and just the beauty of it. Like I find myself just being so like happy, you know,
Yes.
to see Blackness portrayed in all of these different ways.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I
Mhm.
feel like there's certain people that'll kind of be like, oh, they're just painting Black people again and again and again. But it's
Mhm.
like, no, what you have to realize is that this is about self-expression,
That's it.
you know?
That's
This
it.
is about seeing yourself in the history books.
Right.
And the ways in which we were taught, we only looked a certain way.
Yeah.
Even in the written text.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? We're
Yeah.
only portrayed in this one sort of like very narrow,
Yep.
you know, perspective.
We gave y'all turn to be able to tell about like what Black equality could be and what happened. They took it, they distorted it, and they chose willingly to say, I'm gonna choose this part, not this part, not this part.
Yeah.
So we are now in, many are calling like the new Renaissance. I like to think of it as like new perspectives.
Yeah.
Because like now we have like a lot of Black people that are coming from so many different walks of life that are able to tell their particular story that imparts the story of many. Again, we can just be like, yo, two strangers could start having a conversation. We'll very quickly find common ground.
Oh yeah.
And if anything, it's like through the struggle that we all go through.
True.
And the fact that we need one another for that. And historically, we've been either positioned against one another so much that like we just naturally just kept away from one another.
Yeah.
Or we weren't given the opportunity to get close to each other.
Mm.
We're now telling that story the right way. Had I went to school for art, I still would have been doing this exact same thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
I still would
Yeah.
have. I really like to, like, you know, my favorite artists are artists like Francis Bacon that really knew ways to pull and move the figure around and to use like one single figure to operate a large amount of space. I don't like exactness because like that's the humanity of life, right? Like,
right.
you know, there's no perfection in this, you know what I mean? It's like we're right here and like shit's falling. Just power through it, you know what I mean? Like what happens whenever that happens in the real world? Like, you know, whenever something I wanted to go my way just didn't pan out like that. You know, if I get bogged,
Yeah. That's real.
yeah, and I try not to just let things bog me down. Whatever is out of my control, it's just that.
Tell me about before the mural. Tell me about what was going on for you in that time.
It was a mess. It was a mess. Like it was a mess. Cause like every year around this time, I start doing planning for the next year of work. Like people know my hand to change a lot through the work to just tell that story in just a multi-layered form. It's never the same type of work over and over and over again. I like to stretch, pull, and do more. So this is planning time. So in 2019, I was thinking about, okay, here's how I want to approach 2020, and then 2020 does. You know what I mean? I think the craziest thing about like this year in particular is that it's literally 2021.
Yeah.
Like it won. Like it just
won.
took
It got
people.
the W.
It got the W, and it took people and was like, whatever you think about life, here's this, and it just changed. So for me, particular, like I was at home because again, like I want to use my hands to be able to work through that.
Right.
And I'm looking at the TV and just like, yo, the world is just changing. And so it was a bit of a mess because I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then I'm in the studio just kind of working, kind of arriving on something that I wanted to get an idea of doing. And then I got that message about, yo, we're thinking about some, would you be interested? And immediately I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And then I get to find out within 10 hours that all of the homies were there as well.
Yeah.
Like literally like Moses and I as my brother, we had been having conversations for 2-3 months leading up to that. We hadn't even met in person because of pandemic. We're literally taking it old school, like phone talks.
Yeah.
We didn't even FaceTime, we phone talk. And then for hours. And I'm just like, wow, like such an incredible human. And then I get to find out that I'm going to be painting with him and we're about to make something unlike anything I had made before. And again, I still remember that day very, very, very clearly. It was dumping rain throughout the whole day. We're all in the mess. It's like, yo, we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it.
Yep.
1 o'clock, sun broke, we all came up. And on top of that, you gotta know that like Chop was in the center of the news.
Yeah.
I thought that this was about to be a war zone when I got here.
Yeah.
I pulled up and was like, you guys want to watch the news?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Seriously, don't let the news
That's why
fool
you
you.
gotta watch the news.
You can't let it fool you.
We all came together and did something so special. And again, I always say this. I think everyone's saying this. Like, no body of work, no mural comes together that quick.
Yeah.
Like, especially for 48 hours, 24 hours before to have gotten a message about it.
Yeah.
So that's just, again, divine timing. It was divine timing. Everyone came together, showed out. We all painted. Yeah. Everyone's on their hands and knees. We all walked away limping. Like, yo.
Bodies was hurt.
Bodies was hurting, but our ancestors were with us, protecting us, you know, providing for us, sheltering, because we all got everything done. And I don't think anyone thought anything of what would happen next.
No.
We just did what we just normally do.
Definitely not. I didn't think it was gonna last. I knew it wasn't gonna last.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're putting a mural on the ground.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
In the middle of the street.
In the middle of the street.
This is
it was the intention was never for it to last.
Right.
But
Right. And I think that's the really beautiful part of the bisecting of activism and art. Well, if anything, they're one and the same, right?
Yes.
So by doing such a renegade act, and I don't necessarily know if renegade is the word to use, but to do something so non-traditional in that moment and to just walk away with like, yeah, take that. Y'all take that. Like, here you go. Just so you know, again, going back to James Brown, loud and proud. There it is. We matter. We know that. It's been known by us, but now maybe y'all can see that.
There was a bit of, I don't even know how to describe it, but I'm at home and I live near the courthouse. So when the protests happened, I was in the middle of it.
Beautiful.
You know what I mean?
Thank you for doing that.
I mean, but also not in the middle of it.
Right.
Because I'm a Black woman.
Right.
And so I'm not taking my ass outside.
Period.
People are
like,
losing eyes. People are getting tear gas. People are
Right.
getting beat the fuck up.
Right.
You know, like real talk. And, you know, the powers that be, they revel in those types of things.
Of course.
And they live for it. They were ready for it.
Of course.
You know, so there's all of these things taking place and people are putting their bodies on the line in a way that is, you know, what has been put at the forefront of the entire protest. It's like being a physical barrier between the powers and the people.
Beautiful.
You know, and so with regard to choosing art as a form of activism, instead of maybe being on the front line, instead of maybe organizing and getting shields and getting umbrellas and things like that, like how do you feel about that part of it?
Yeah, they're all supposed to be done. You know, that's why it takes a village. We need people to be out there that have the voices, that can say, we need the people that are orators, that can, you know, make the speeches that just strike to the nerve and cut through. And we need the people that can visually appeal to. And I feel like that's where I lie at. We have the ability to tell what our time on earth really truly looked like through our work. And I think that's why, like, not even I think, but that's why I say so dedicated to the work that I'm doing, and fortunate and grateful and happy to know people like you, the rest of us on the collective, because we really are working in a unified mission behind the work. Because that's, as I said, is always just gonna supersede all of us.
Likewise. Yeah, it's been an amazing journey so far, and I feel like it's definitely only the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. With all the social issues, with all the issues of the world that are happening simultaneously, and being able to respond to those through the visual work, that ends up being a little bit of a trouble as well. So it's like you kind of gotta step back and be like, okay, I've been able to take all this information, now I need to synthesize it and make it into something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
absolutely.
It is really about like being able to change the format and be able to reproduce something new, and just know that like, hey, I'm throwing it up for the next generation to come behind.
Real talk.
I love how earlier the point was posed to you, and I watched your face when they're like, oh, so are there more people that are in there? Is it growing?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
That
That is going to happen.
It's going to.
There has to be a natural graduation of,
Absolutely.
cool, these are the foundational artists. here's the next generation. How do we mentor them, foster them, bring them in, throw them the ball, and say, okay, we're on to nothing, we're on to something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest point of that is just like with the mural, we had no idea what it was going to be.
Yeah.
You know, we had no idea how people were going to receive it. We have no idea what the future of VMC is, but we know that we're going to do everything that we can here and now to cement and solidify this time.
Exactly.
Because people are going to come back to it. And they have to have something to come back to. If they're not able to understand it now, they will at some point. And if you didn't make the thing, then they have nothing to come back to.
Exactly.
So you have to do with now what you have.
You have to do with now what you have.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
That was the bar.
Now what you have.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Hey.
Thank you, my friend.
There you have it, folks. Episode 2, The Art of Visibility, featuring Barry Johnson. Man, the studio is all smiles right now. So Barry, how do you feel?
Yeah. Speechless.
Yeah.
I have to say something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yo, I was that was so great.
Yeah.
Like that was so dope to be able to do that. I have not done that before, and I have not like had the ability to like share my views in relation to someone else and have them just respond the way that you did. And our lines of thinking are so connected and amongst the crew as well. So it was really beautiful. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Like for real.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. That's what we do. And like, you know, the point of these conversations is exactly that. It's like, we as artists don't necessarily get an opportunity to speak to the sort of more nuanced situations that happen when we create. You know what I mean? And I think about somebody like you who makes beautiful work.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Like, but sometimes the lines of questioning are surface, you know, and we don't really get a chance to get down to the nitty and the gritty of what makes our art unique to us. You know, and so for me, Art of the Matter is an opportunity to spark conversation. So obviously we're having conversations, but these conversations will then spark conversations.
Absolutely, for sure. That's what they're intended to do. And like, it's funny because, you know, the things that really help to move the world forward have now been the things that we're like pushed to stay away from in conversation. So to be able to kind of have that ability with you, not kind of, but to have that ability with you, it's like, it was so natural. And it just felt good. You know what I mean? And like, I'm so happy that you're doing this and that like there will be other people that get to have this same experience. And man, it's like so good.
Thank you. Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah,
thank you for
real,
being, you know, our second episode. Thank you for being our first featured artist at VMC Gallery also. So we got to see your show Duality a little bit in the episode. Yeah. You know, and you know, started us off real nice with the Duality show for the gallery. So thank you for that.
Those works were cool because those are like those self-destructing works. Like those works are like that iron oxide that, you know, never got sealed. And every time that work moves, it's like a piece of it goes wherever it moves to, because all those little iron oxide pellets just fall on the ground. So wherever you are, it's like a piece that is left with you. And eventually, once that's all off the canvas, you know, hopefully the world won't be in the condition it is now, and it will just be a shell of what it was, because the work was made about trauma.
Right,
you know?
Right. And so can I ask, because that is incredible, you know, to think about an artist intentionally self-destructing their art kind of in a way, you know what I mean? Using the materials that you did, not setting them in the ways that you did, understanding that, you know, things are going to get tossed and turned and hit and touched, and they're going to get changed by those interactions. Like, how do you come up with stuff like that?
Well, I mean, we spoke about it during the episode, is about like the importance of like the non-perfection. I'm a non-perfectionist, like by design, because that's life. It just does not happen. And I think that there's so much, I think art is like it's too sacred. You know, it's like it's all a feeling of expression.
Yeah.
You know, it's all what you're going through, and someone may be going through something ultra traumatic and make a beautiful work out of it. And they might not view that as a beautiful work. They might look at that as the biggest release that they've had. You know, so whenever I look at that work and think about the Duality series, like that was a very, very, very painful work to make, because all I'm doing is painting Black men, two different views on them, and then making it in a material that is slowly going to fall apart, just like our lives. You know, it's just a natural aging process, just being aware of mortality and what was going on with the world then, and just knowing that I want this work to, over time, represent something different than what it was originally.
Wow. That is like next level, honestly.
Just trying to create. We're just trying to create what we're doing.
It's just wild. It's like I can't even quantify that in my mind, that, you know, that type of approach to something that, you know, because I feel like there's sort of like an understanding of artists, you know, we're sensitive about the things that we make, you know what I mean? But to create something that, you know, will change, you know, and it won't look the way that it did when you finished it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's like you think about in theater. I was just reading Billy Porter's memoir, Unprotected, an incredible book. But one of the things I learned from Billy in there is that the audience is always the third part of the art. It's the last part of the art, because it's like their response to it. So to think about that work, I won't be here. I would have transitioned once that work is like fully came to its metamorphosis, like a caterpillar would. And to think about someone having that work and watching that metamorphosis change over time is really cool to me, because it just helps that story continue. You know, and like that's what I really want, because with the work that we're making, we wanted to continue to push the conversation, to create those opportunities for people to dig in deeper, to be able to have those conversations that like we might not be afforded or, you know, given space to now. So that's what I really want that work to be able to do. And that's what I want with that series.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for creating that.
Yep.
Yeah. So since Duality, because we filmed that, I want to say October of last year, if I'm not mistaken. So since then, obviously you've been doing a lot of work. You actually had 2 shows open recently, if I'm not right. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah. So right after we got done filming, I had I've been doing this year-long pandemic portrait series. It was called the Between the Sheets. Just shout out to, you know, Isley, you know, 80s baby. But once I got done with that series, I wanted to start 2022 with something a little bit bigger, but still reminiscent of like the work that came from that series. So I did like a bunch of large-scale self-portraits, and they were like super intimate, because again, this is something I don't do. I hadn't painted myself like on that scale prior to, and I just wanted to do something that like had me in the studio and represented like my identity, my work, the things I'm doing. So I did like these collage images of me with just different colors, and just shot a bunch of the different work that I had and just put those together. It's like I'm trying to come to terms with self a little bit more as I like age, just understanding more about my identity, my essence. And you know, it's really just a really big moment of self-love as well. So I was given the opportunity by VMC Gallery to mount the work in there, and it's just a showing of just love. And you know, there was so much hardships that I personally went through during the pandemic, and it was kind of like mounting a victory flag over a long period of darkness. You know, coming out of that and just saying, this is me in a new form, and this is a declaration of love. And that's why I called it Pretty Boy Berry.
Dope.
The whole idea of like pretty, you know, and I just wanted to change that context and just take it in my hands to say like, I can say what's pretty. I don't let you dictate that. I'll do that.
I love that, because when I think of Pretty Boy Berry, I think of like pretty boy swag. You know what I mean? I think swagger. I think, you know, coming into yourself and understanding who you are.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's it. You know, I try to, I'm old man, I can't be super swaggy, you know, but I try to do my thing. But it's
pretty
like
swaggy, Berry. I ain't gonna hold you.
Thank you.
Pretty swaggy.
Hey, look at you. I'm taking notes, you know. But like, you know, I just wanted to do something that was about me. And it's such a weird thing to say that, because as artists, we're, you know, throughout the show, we spoke about that. Like, we're doing so much for the world at large. And I just wanted to do something for me particular, and just really take a look at like my life and see what I've done. And think about how I represent that across the canvas.
Absolutely. I love that you mentioned that, because that is also something that, you know, will come up in the rest of this series of, like, obviously we've been doing a lot of public work. We've been doing a lot of commission work, which requires us to put out, you know, things for other people, you know, and all the artists I talk to are like, yeah, I've been doing a lot of commissions and getting good work and but now I want to do stuff for me. You know, and so I feel like we're all kind of in that sort of like stage right now. And so Pretty Boy Berry is just, you know,
it's so important.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what's funny. It's really so important to like really be able to have a good self-care routine.
For sure.
You know, and I mean, we spoke about that. Like, yeah, like artists are like working like crazy, and that's really good. Thank you. Continue to please provide us opportunities.
Please do.
And in doing so, like while we're taking on these opportunities, save some for you,
right?
You know, to just give yourself a little, you know, whatever it is to get you right, do that, because that is so critical, because it's going to help us continue doing the work that's so important.
Absolutely. And finding that balance is key. You know what I mean? Especially nowadays with everything that we have going on in the world, you know, being able to balance, you know, your art and yourself is important. So to those people who are commissioning artists, also understand that, you know, we're balancing things as well. You know, so it's definitely important. We talked about, you know, during the mural, and you mentioned, I was so glad that you mentioned the bodies hurt part of that. You know what I mean? Because it was like, you know, everybody has these ideas of what that moment was, but only we have the experience of actually doing it.
Yes.
You know, and a part of that experience, you'll hear something different from every person who was there, but a part of that experience was the physical toll that it took on us.
Absolutely.
To actually be doing that work, you know.
You're painting on your hands and knees.
Yeah.
On, you know, on concrete, and just keeping it a super beam. We didn't know how safe we were in that space.
Sure.
So it's like this whole time you're painting, which can be very therapeutic. You kind of end up in a trance when you're doing, you know, it's like when you're, as any artist, whenever you get to that point, you get in a trance. So you got to be able to do that and come out of it to be like, I don't know what's around me. And you see, we're just energetically all connected. Like I said, that's how the work ended up getting done.
Yes.
Because we all energetically connected.
Yes.
So it's like where I would normally say, I'll come back tomorrow to finish this, you know, because I dapped you and Joey up whenever I walked out. Like, and it was night time.
Yeah.
And it was night time. And we just like all kind of limped off and was like, yeah, that was really beautiful. And I think that's what's really interesting about it, because it was so special to us, because we just got to get together and do something that was impactful and do something that we loved. For that unity to come together was really interesting, because that, you know, it's usually a very singular practice as an artist in a studio.
For sure.
So to be joined by so many other artists and to be able to create a work and walk away, it's like, all right, I'm just going to go get some Epsom salt, kick back. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm going to stretch the bones
right there
out,
with
and
you.
then to wake up and see what came from it is like, oh, wow. Now what? You know?
Seriously. Talk about like an exertion, you know what I mean? Like we gave our all to that, you know what I mean? And we got it back, you know, in so many different ways.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Definitely.
Like there is a lot of love and genuine support. And, you know, it's really funny because we are who we are. We're reminded that we're Black once we step outside. We know who we are, you know, but it's really interesting to watch how the world and how the city responded. And it just being completely transparent, it felt weird. I was like, oh, like I now feel like I'm walking out being seen.
Yeah.
And what does that mean for me? So how do I respond to that? So it was something that really was really cool. In short, it was just a really cool and really powerful thing to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I subtitle all the episodes because I see certain things in the conversations that are sort of like a through line. And I titled yours Visibility because of what you spoke about the history books and the Black protagonist, you know, and, you know, how did you come to that being your mission with your art?
While I'm here, what are we going to do? Yeah. You know, like, once you fully understand like your purpose and, you know, you get to it after that. And I wanted to make sure that while I was making work, that I was doing it for a reason, not to just elevate my Instagram following, not to just try to make a living and be able to sell work and end up and get commissions. Like, no, I wanted to be able to combat like a history of erasing and manipulation and pain and trauma
Mm-hmm.
by just putting Black people, not, and, you know, and it's no knock against anyone that's cast us in different lights, be it us chained up or whatever it may have been. You know,
Sure.
I really just wanted to put just regular Black folk and brown people and people, you know, that understand us in just a regular light.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, here, like, take this. Like, for so long, you ask anyone like what they know about like art, they're usually going to start naming artists, and it's very rare that a Black artist will ever get mentioned in that.
Yes.
It's so rare. And if
Yeah.
anyone, and if there is one that gets mentioned, you know, it's like Basquiat, like,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yep.
But I want to be able to add more names to that. I want to
Sure.
be able to have people be able to recall like works offhand by like a number of Black artists, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's just what I wanted to be able to do, and just like really, I just mounted that as my mission as like a creative, just to be able to just like put work out there
Mm-hmm.
that is just like centering us.
Yes.
You know, that
Yes.
is just putting us right in the middle of like the conversation.
Right, right. And I love that. And it reminds me of Mona Lisa,
Mhm.
you know, because that's, I guess, considered the most famous painting
Sure.
ever,
Sure.
the Mona Lisa, but it's her image,
Sure.
right? It's not necessarily about the artist, it's about the person that's in the painting,
Right.
you know? And so doing the work that you're doing,
Yep.
now the people that are existing in your works
Yep.
have a name and have a story
Yep.
and have a place,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah, identity is so key.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why even when I was speaking about like painting Black men specifically and just being very like specific how I'm telling that story, just to be able to pick up Black men in a time where Black people, Black men are like having war raged against us.
Yeah.
It's just centering us. It's like, yo, we just here vibing, still existing, so that, you know, once you fast forward a couple 100 years now, people won't say that like this is the worst time that's ever happened. You know what I mean? It's like, I want work that was like, well, this is actually showing what people look like at that time.
Beautiful.
Like, thinking far ahead of what life could be like.
Beautiful. I mean, I could ask you questions all night. We're going to take a quick little break and
Let's
see if
do
anybody out here has any questions. We'll be right back. You're watching Art of the Matter. Boom. And we're back. Art of the Matter, episode 2, featuring Barry Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, I will say, I mean, it's always good to give flowers, you know, and I want to say now that I appreciate you for doing the work that you do and being the person that you are, you know, coming from where you come from and bringing your lived experience and your genius and your pretty to Seattle. You know what I mean? I really
Thank you,
appreciate
T.
that. And, you know, we had like a quick little art kind of situation back in the day.
Yep.
Yep.
course,
And I
yeah.
met you and I saw your work and I was like, wow, this guy is really doing some amazing things. And
Thank
he's
you.
really like asking some real deep questions
Yeah.
with the work that you create.
Thank you
You
so
know?
much. Like, that was such a cool moment.
Yeah.
Shouts out to Kamari and AO.
Yes.
Yeah, brought you on for that show.
Yep.
That show was so cool. And like, that's what I really love about this so much. Like, that was my first interaction with you, is through your art. I love to meet people through their art. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Because once I do that, it's like I get to form this idea and understand the most personal aspects of you. I used to think it was weird whenever I heard people say that, like, oh, to be an artist is to be brave and to be bold. I never really got that. I didn't understand until now that really whenever you are putting any piece of art out, you are providing an intimate view into yourself
Yes.
that just normally doesn't be seen.
Right.
So to be able to watch you at your highest level, and I'm, you know, up in the audience just watching you move for the first time and was like completely blown away.
Thank
And
you.
was like, yo, like, I have to know more about this person. Like I hit you right after that.
Yeah.
We're like, yo, let's do more work.
Yep.
Like immediately.
Yep.
And to be able to fast forward to the mural into here in the gallery, these are the things about life that I just love being here for.
Yeah.
It's like those progressive steps to building relationships, to building like legacy.
Yes.
You know, those things. And I'm so appreciative for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, man. So, you know, you talked about in the episode how 2021, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you plan to win 2022?
Yo, going back to episode.
Yeah.
Hey, people gonna get these hands.
Yes.
That's it. I'm gonna give these hands. Like these are my tools. And it's funny. I'm like, look at my hands right now. They have paint on them because I was just working on like a mural earlier. But yeah, I'm just gonna continue to put a lot of work out. And this year will be different because the work that I'm putting out is just through a very singular view. I spent 2020 and 2021 like doing a lot of exploring, working in different formats. Sure. And it was really interesting. At the end of that, I arrived at like a through line, just like the art of visibility that you had spoken about.
Sure.
Like I arrived at that through line through visibility and was like, yo, like I want to just take this particular thing and push and pull that and stretch that. So I'm going to do it from just one colorful this time and just really just do what I can, you know, just work with the homies. You know what I mean? Like just take opportunities, push people, you know what I mean? To put great work out, collaborate. That's something I love doing. I love working with other artists, you know what I mean? And just really just trying to put work out there and just continue to pick us up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I know you have a lot of great things planned for this year. I know we as a collective have a lot of great things planned for this year. So stay tuned for that, you know. Barry, thank you so much for joining us tonight for the live streaming of your episode of Art of the Matter.
Yo, yes. T, I want to say it like, thank you so much for all you do. Like for real. I want to make sure that like the world sees this. Like I really genuinely appreciate you so much. It's like when I'm speaking with people about you, it's always like an enigma. Like the T is always got, she's quiet, calculated, thoughtful, and just a a real strategist through and through, and just a brilliant mind. So thank you so much for providing this opportunity for myself, other artists, and really thank you for putting work out in the city at large.
Thank you so much, bro. Appreciate that for real.
All love.
Thank you.
Yo.
Barry Johnson, folks. Yeah, so that's it. That's episode 2. Stay tuned. A couple weeks from now, we have episode 3 going to drop. We'll be doing this show, Art of the Matter, every 2 weeks right here on Converge Media. And we're going to be doing the live talkbacks as well after. So make sure that you're ready with those questions. If you have questions, be sure to drop them in the comments. We'll try to get to them after the show. Yeah, thank you guys. Everybody who tuned in, everybody who supports, everybody who support Converge Media, support Art of the Matter, everybody who shared it, liked it, whatever the case may be, I thank you. And we'll see you soon. TDUB out.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us. Back on this rap-ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.